different service and different way that disrupts
All right.
what got you to 10
I was watching
million.
this interview with
You're
Natalie
not
Dawson,
at 10 million
the woman
any
behind
longer.
not one
You're
but
at
two
8
nine-figure
million
businesses.
or 7
And I
million,
had to
and
react
there's
to
real
it.
slipbacks
Because what
that
she
happen.
says
And
is
to me, that's
exactly
more
what
of the reality
99%
that
of
I
people
see,
don't want to
which
hear,
is the slipbacks,
but absolutely
because
need
the
if they
business
want to
owner doesn't
succeed.
know enough
Let's
about
get
the
into
core
it.
parts of the business to decide how the business is run, what the core offer is, to have the confidence to then bring on people who are additive that can't break the business.
So you think you should approach with caution because there's risk associated with onboarding people that might be expensive and know too much about, I guess it goes back to being duped, be able to dupe you by you not fully understanding what they're saying and what they know.
And they can't dupe you if you know what you are already doing. If you're really willing to model what is currently being done, and they are willing to be humble enough to come into your environment and learn the reasons why. This doesn't have to take years. This can take a handful of months. I'm not talking about like stifling innovation for quarters and quarters or years and years to make sure that they like really are indoctrinated with the way that the organization works. Absolutely not. That wouldn't work. The way you have to do it is quickly assessing that they understand the way that things work inside your current business. We just recently brought on a new C-suite within the first handful of weeks. I can tell that he's picking up on what our core business does. And if I didn't think that, it would be hard for me to trust some of his recommendations, because I brought on a C-suite team member earlier this year who had all of these fanciful ideas and this,
3 years.
you know, the big names. And you think that they're going to bring on all these things, but they can't actually contextualize what their experience is to the core business because they don't understand the core business. And then it ends up disenfranchising the team members that they're responsible for working with. And I have seen more often than not that trusting too early on without that founder getting the necessary skills ends up in the luck scenario instead of this was a strategy because I knew and had certainty about what was going on. And I'm good with what my four walls are. This is what you are going to bring that is incredibly additive to that core business. But that rigor and that discipline has to be there from the founder first.
Everyone wants more money, but nobody wants to build a real
really
skill.
Interesting. And I think part of my bias is because I've been there before. I would never start a new business now without aiming extremely high with the talent. But that's actually because I'm harder to dupe now. So if you have to pay someone a huge salary, for example, and give them a huge package, whatever, I'm better able to assess whether they are worth it and what their ROI is going to be versus the start of my career where hiring someone on and taking such a big risk on someone, I didn't have enough data to understand if I was being duped or not. So it was a lot of faith and trust and, well, they worked at this incredible company, so they must be good. And I've also seen that completely backfire as well. You talk about these 10 steps to becoming a millionaire in a video that you made in December in 24. And there are a couple of things that I wanted to pull out here. So you outline this 10-step process to becoming a millionaire within a year. And one of them is researching what jobs millionaires have. Then rate your interest and skills in each and pick one to master.
She's right and smart.
The other one is cut out friends who drain energy or don't stop your goals. Study the 10 most successful people in your field through podcasts, videos, and books. Use every moment to build skills. Follow only millionaires on social media and eliminate all distractions such as Netflix and doom scrolling. Be willing to invest in going to debt, as without investment knowledge, you will stay broke. Attend events with successful people. Research you'll be attending. Master selling yourself, your customers, and your team members daily. On this point of selling, is there anything on this subject of how to be a great salesperson that we haven't talked about that you think is important? Whether it's selling yourself or selling your ideas or selling your business or...
She's right and smart.
One of my favorite quotes from Grant Cardone is, to the extent you are sold, you will sell.
Oh, okay. So to the extent in which you believe something is the extent you'll be able to make others believe in the thing.
So if you're not sold on yourself, on your business idea, on the product that you're selling for the company that you work for, on getting another department to work cross-functionally with you. If you aren't really sold on that, you will not sell. But I think it goes a layer deeper than that oftentimes, because it's easy to look at, I'm not selling the product inside my business. Maybe I'm a team member, I'm in sales, and I'm not hitting my quota this month of cars that I'm supposed to sell. And I'm like, well, like, I don't really feel good about the fact that I sell cars. Like, this car is a piece of crap. Of course I'm not selling the car. And you can get very critical of the thing and rationalize why you are not good at sales. But if you really do take a step back, why did you choose to sell cars in the first place? Why is that the thing that you said, I'm going to spend my time and energy being sold on? You could have chosen lots of other opportunities, and you actually being sold on the PR firm that you wanted to work at instead of taking the sales job that you got and not confronting the PR rejection that you got, landed you in this place where you're unsold, and then you're critical of your environment and you're critical of the product, and then you think you're not good at sales, when really you just needed to go back to that thing that you were actually sold on, because you sold yourself on why you thought for you that was your opportunity. Then you just missed the target, and instead of being unreasonable about the target, you became reasonable and started selling something you didn't believe in, and then you think that you're not good at sales. And so the reasonableness in yourself, in what you want to be doing, is actually why I find that salespeople can't sell. It's not about their inherent skills. If I can get them sold on the product, of course I'm going to get them sold on the product. I help business owners across the country get sold on getting their team members to sell roofs. I believe that somebody knocking on the door and selling roofs is the most important thing for that team member. I am sold on the fact that they're working for a roofer who cares about them. So I'm like, hell yeah, let's get on the roof. I was on a roof about a month ago, and then was on another roof 2 months ago, because I literally help these business owners train their sales team members to sell roofs. And these sales team members aren't naturally interested in roofs. They didn't wake up one day thinking like, my life's dream is to sell a roof. But what are they sold on? They're sold on the opportunity to potentially join this roofing company, to go from one location to 2 locations, 3 locations, 5 locations, because the business owner has created that vision for them, and the salesperson can sell themselves on the skills that they have to understand how to sell a roof. Maybe not the sexiest thing, but that's a stepping stone in order to be a future expansion partner with this business owner, because this opportunity exists.
So how do I sell a roof? If I'm on that roof with you and you're trying to train me to sell the roof better, what are you saying to me?
Ideally, you're knocking on the door of the homeowner.
Okay, I knock on the door.
You knock on the door.
Yeah.
And you go through, if there was a storm, there's all sorts of ways that you can sell roofs. But let's say that there was a storm nearby or recently that hit that area, and you could go the easier route, which is going through insurance, because that roof is completely then paid for. But then you need to go up on the roof and or use a drone to look at the real damage, because that in and of itself is a sales skill. Somebody going up and pointing out the problem that that person has that they do not know in that moment that they have, helps the person feel confident in selling that roof. So it's just as much a part of a process to go walk the roof or to fly a drone over that roof to see the damage, as it is a selling mechanism for the salesperson, because you're not just selling somebody a roof that doesn't need a roof. They actually have a problem. And then you would educate that sales individual on the damage that can do long-term, the value loss of that property. And if you can sell the salesperson on why that homeowner deserves to know that their roof has something that insurance could pay for, that could get fixed for them within a handful of weeks, that doesn't erode the biggest investment that that person has likely made in their life, their home, all of a sudden I have an army of salespeople who are interested in selling roofs, because they're sold not just on the fact that it's a roof, but the impact that that work makes on the person that they're selling, and ideally the opportunity that they have inside that company to be freaking great at selling roofs.
So you pointed out the problem that they have. You've then assigned a cost to that problem, how much it's going to cost them over the long term or short term. And then you pose the solution, which is to get the roof repaired. And I guess you're trying to frame the solution relative to the cost so that the solution is not bigger or more costly than the cost of having a bad roof. Earlier on, you mentioned this phrase, which I've not heard before.
She's right.
It was just before we started recording, you talked about a women's wealth transfer. And when I asked you what was front of mind for you at the moment, you referenced that you were thinking a lot about the women's wealth transfer. What is this?
The women's wealth transfer between 2025 and 2030 looks like, just these are US stats, $10 trillion are in the hands of women right now. And between now and 2030, that number is going to go up to $30 trillion. So this wealth is going to balloon. And when you think about the implications of how this wealth transfer happens, it's not just cash that is given to women all of a sudden because they're making more money. There's a transition because of differences in life expectancy in partners, a man and a woman. There's about on average.
Men are going to die first.
Yep. And it's about 5.5, 6 years. So women are left with assets, not cash, like homes, businesses, portfolios, investments, bank accounts that oftentimes they were left out of the conversation with the financial advisor. And they don't actually know how to operationalize, how to manage, because up until as recent as 50 years ago, women weren't even allowed to open bank accounts without their husband or their father until that passed in the 80s. And so the wealth is actually moving towards women, but women today feel less financially able due to content creation. There was a recent study done by a company called Elvest, where they analyzed the amount of manifestation content on the internet created by women creators. There's 12 times as much manifestation content from women creators as there is investing and equity content. Or 70% of women feel more overwhelmed with financial information after consuming the content because it's a tip or trick or hack that is being shared instead of a real system and process for how do they take something and systematize or operationalize this business that has equity, but then there's trucks maybe that they're inheriting, then there's debt on this business. And it's just a brand new conversation. And as women get more financially literate, as they get more financial opportunities, there have to be more ways for them to be in these conversations. There have to be more ways for them to understand how to navigate what opportunities didn't exist structurally, even up until as recent as 20, 30 years ago. And so I'm passionate about this because I see this incredible time where I help people every day understand how to grow businesses and be competent in businesses. So as the total wealth transfer takes place over the next 20 years, from baby boomers to the next generation, that total wealth transfer is about $124 trillion. How do I equip women to feel confident with the decisions that they're making, to not just fire their financial advisor, which 70% of them do after their spouse dies within the first year, and actually know before this catastrophic event takes place how they control the money, how they feel confident with the money, so that once they have it, it is not in moments of panic and stress and frustration that they're having to figure these things out. They already feel like they are equipped with conversations about what is a P&L and how do I understand what's happening with my 401k. And still some of these concepts are just out of sight, out of mind, and traditionally held by male roles in a household.
So what would you recommend people do who find themselves in that situation where they are financially illiterate? You used the word earlier on, financial crisis. Mm-hmm. Is that dovetailing into the same thing? Is that because is that the financial illiteracy point? When you say financial crisis?
For me, the financial crisis is how few people are actually making enough money to make ends meet. The financial crisis is that there are so many businesses, 35 million in the US alone, and yet less than 200,000 make more than $1 million. And if less than 200,000 make over $1 million, and the average margin of a business is 8.5%, you're circling the drain as to how much money people are actually making. It seems like there's so much money because of social media. And there are team members who work in organizations that make more than $60,000 a year, but people are actually making less money than I think society believes because of the proliferation of content creation. And so this crisis to me has much more to do with how do we get people skills that they need with our life expectancy in total looking like it's going to be longer, based off of the different treatments that are coming out due to AI in healthcare, in genomics.
What do you think is the most important financial information the average person needs in this regard?
I think the most important financial information is actually that money matters. And if money matters, how are you spending your time today, tomorrow, the next day, to get skills and to do things that generate money? And if you can align your time with making more money, instead of thinking that it's some fixed resource or there is some scarcity around it, you could actually increase the top line, because you can save your way to the bottom, but you get to the bottom. There's no abundance in the bottom. So what are the skills? Like if I was somebody that was trying to earn more money today, I would go onto one of the AI platforms and say, this is the set of skills that I have. These are the set of interests that I have. This is the current job that I hold, what I do for work. And my goal is to increase my income between now and 12 months from now by $100,000. What are the specific skills and the associated syllabus for each week, if I carved out 2 hours a day for me to learn, that you could put together for me so that I can actually get skills that would demonstrate that I'm able to make more money? And I think that message is missed when people talk about investing and 401ks. Sure, you can make your 6%, your 8%, your 10%. But what can you actually control? And what does every individual have the ability to control? Their skills and how they exchange those skills for problems that they are solving, in exchange, earning more income. And then they're able to invest and do all of those other things. But those things are ancillary. They are not the main thing. The main thing is you need to get skills. You are going to live longer. Wake up, smell the roses. The world is going to be a very long place that you're going to inhabit for the next potentially 100 years on average. So let's get comfortable with learning more, understanding what our stops are to learning so that we aren't scared as the world changes of having to acquire new skills.
Before the Diary of a CEO was what it is today, it was just an idea. And it started with me, a cheap plug-in microphone, and my Mac right here. And I have to say, when I first had the idea for the Diary of a CEO, my thinking was that the world might want to see into the diaries of some of the most interesting, successful people really in high places that were doing interesting things. So after recording that first episode under my duvet, I sat on my Mac, which is from our sponsor Apple, and spent hours editing. And eventually I uploaded it, and honestly, I thought that would probably be it. But a couple of my friends said they enjoyed it, so I kept on recording. And over time, the microphone has changed and we now have this incredible setup here. But the thing that has stayed the same is I'm still using the Mac. Even today, my entire team across our studio still uses the Mac. Our first few episodes maybe had tens of people listening, but now tens of millions of people tune in all over the world, which is still absolutely crazy to me. So if there is an idea that keeps tapping you on the shoulder, this is your sign to start. Your great ideas start on Mac. And you can find out more at apple.com/Mac. I did something at 24 years old that has had a profound impact on my life.
She's right and
I set
smart.
myself the challenge of posting every single day on my social media channels. And at the time, I was doing it to grow my following, but it had this profound impact on my life, and two remarkable things happened when I did that. I managed to learn faster because every single day I'm capturing what is happening to me and trying to distill it down into something that I can share with the world. But more remarkably, it led me to building a following of many millions of people, and that's the basis that I used to launch the Diary of a CEO. And that's why I want to tell you about our sponsor today, Adobe Express. They are the platform that I use to make all the posts across my LinkedIn and across my Instagram. It's a couple of clicks and you don't need to be an expert. And that is why I love using it, because I'm not an expert in graphic design. It's accessible to use for all of us, even if we don't have the technical prowess to design great things. So if you want to start compounding both your reach and your knowledge like I did at 24 years old, then head to adobe.ly/Stephen and get started with Adobe Express. That's adobe.ly/Stephen. People love talking about passive income. Especially on YouTube and the internet, everyone wants passive income. The idea that you can make income and do fuck all is unbelievably compelling.
Sign me up.
I would like some passive income. What is the reality of this? Because there's a real obsession with figuring out ways to make passive income. I want to earn money when I sleep. What is the reality of that? Is that a thing? Is that possible? Is that something I should be aiming at?
You should aim at that once you have $1 million in your bank account. Before you have $1 million, don't even think about passive income. You have no asset to actually earn passive income off of. And your time is much better spent learning how do you get your first $1 million than it is through passive income and thinking how you're going to earn a percentage on the principal that you've invested. If you make $60,000 a year, medium wage, United States of America, if you make $60,000 a year, 8% on that isn't going to get you to financial freedom. So don't figure out how to crack 8% to maybe I'm going to get 15% returns, because the principal is still so small. The 60,000 is so small. What do you have to do? Actually learn, how do I make my income 160,000? But what's wild, once people learn how to do this, and the skill of learning is like, it's the greatest drug on planet Earth, because you learn how to do something and you become competent in it. And as soon as you get there, you're like, oh my gosh, if that's all it took for these people that I used to think were special to earn an additional 100,000, and now all I have to do is do that same process again to go from where I'm at to be able to earn 1.6 million, do a
She's
10x.
right and smart.
Sign me up, because you get this confidence from learning how to do things. And so passive income is great at a certain stage of life and at a certain stage of financial protection, but it is financial protection. It is not for the people who are saying, I want to go build something, I want to grow something, I want to create something. It is to me almost the opposite of survival, actually. It's your backup plan. It's your rainy day fund in case shit hits the fan. And I'm not opposed to having a backup plan. It's good to have a backup plan, but 99% of your time should be focused on how do I make the first plan go frickin' right and do everything I can today to control plan A.
You talked about acquiring skills being the key thing there. Obviously, the world is changing quickly because of AI and all the skills that a lot of people once acquired in university, accountants, lawyers, podcasters, I guess. Our skills are quickly being replaced by intelligent machines and systems that can now do what we do. And when you look around the corner at what's going on in robotics, I think NEO, the robotics company this week, put on sale their first humanoid robot, which can move through the physical environment and do things. And when I combine these two things, I can combine intelligence with the ability to manipulate the physical environment. I go, where are humans gonna be in all this? Because it is conceivable, it's perfectly conceivable to me that much of what we employ people to do these days will be redundant in the near future. Mm-hmm. And that's not to say that there won't be new jobs, but it's a difficult time to be investing heavily in any particular skill set. Well, some skill sets, because they're they're becoming invalid in no time at all. Like even as a writer, so like I've written 2 books and I enjoy the process of writing. I consider it to be one of my edges. I was like, I'm quite good at writing. So that's useful. You can build a personal brand. You can send good emails. You can convince people, investors, whatever it might be. But even now, I'm like, fuck, everyone's got like AI now, ChatGPT, so they can just produce AI slop and they can literally just say, write it like Stephen or write it like Natalie. So the edges are going. What is the edge of the future in your view? What is the edge? What is the skill I should double down on that the robots and AI aren't going to steal from me?
I think the only skill that we can actually double down on in a world of AI is the skill of learning and adapting, because we cannot predict what the world is going to look like in 2040. We do not know what robots are or aren't going to be capable of. I'm not as bullish on this. I watched Elon have a interview over the weekend about his take on AI, and he said that it's a supersonic tsunami, in which he proceeded to explain that supersonic is traveling at the speed of sound and a tsunami is a wall of water. And so if you think about that being AI, it's coming, it's here, it's fast. And of course, he benefits from everybody believing all of those things with all of the companies. And I am a pro Elon person. I love what he has built. I love his mind. But I think that we're further away than people think, but it is still coming. And so the only hedge that somebody can have is the ability to adapt and learn. And what AI should be used for with every individual is the ability to learn. Acknowledge what you don't know. That is the greatest strength somebody has. Really be comfortable saying, I do not know how to read a P&L. I don't know how to read this legal contract. I don't know anything about AI. And what I've heard an LLM, I don't really know what it is, or agentic, what's the difference? And be able to convince yourself why that is the most important skill for you to push past that barrier of learning something new that is so uncomfortable because the names are new and you feel like a freaking idiot. And then you think everybody is smarter than you and that you're just some fraud. To push back on that and to have some resilience through it, to say, I'm going to adapt through this. I'm going to get to the other side and learn so that I concretely can have confidence that I can change in any environment based off of what's needed of me in that environment. And I will add value to that environment regardless of whatever the external circumstances are. That is the only choice. There is no alternative choice.
Are you scared about AI?
I'm not scared at all. I'm pumped. As you can tell, I'm really excited because I used to feel dumb. I used to feel like there were things that these smart people knew that I didn't know. And my entire outlook on life changed a handful of years ago when this got launched, because AI has taught me in 2 years what I would have had to go to school for and would have had to get a degree in, still to just find out that most people who went to school for those things and had degrees in them missed something critical and important. And so for me, and I think people like me, and I don't think there's anything particularly special about who I categorize as people like me, it is a unprecedented time to lean into this reference of information that can specifically tutor you on what you don't know, to actually equip you. We've never had this opportunity before, and it's not specific to you with your gender or your race or your age. It's accessible. And so I'm beyond excited, because anything that comes up that's like, oh, this just changed the whole dynamic of the business. Guess what? I have AI to help me understand that and to help me get whatever skill I need in this new world. Same thing that people 100 years ago had to do. Same thing that 2,000 years ago people had to do. They just didn't actually have a tool to help them understand what was happening, to then learn what needed to happen from them, whatever they had misunderstood in order to actually get to the other side with real skills.
Natalie, what do you think is the most important thing we haven't talked about that we should have talked about as it relates to what you know about who my audience are and what they're interested in?
I think this is a connected subject, but I would want anybody in the audience, whether you make 60,000 a year, 1 million a year, 100 million a year, to actually have the belief in themselves that they can learn anything that they want to know, and that there isn't actually a barrier there that exists. Because if I could get people to really believe that, their entire life would change due to the access that they have today, due to the tools that they have today. And so taking that confidence that I can walk into any room with any big shot, with anybody who knows something about a particular subject matter that I know nothing about, and feel totally comfortable being in that environment, because you can prep yourself, you can learn about it, and life is so beautiful because you get those experiences and you don't have to be scared of them. You can learn and you can understand, and there's nothing that's wrong with you to where you can't, and there's no special privilege or special characteristics that somebody has that you don't have, in that you can learn anything.
Did you used to think there were special characteristics or some kind of genetic genius gene that these people at the very top had? And how did that change once you were in rooms with those people?
Of course, I thought that there was some genius button that somebody clicked at birth before coming out of the womb, where they just got to be special and they got to understand things. I really struggled growing up with remembering numbers. Numbers were so challenging. I would just reverse the numbers and then they wouldn't stick in my brain. And I thought I was stupid for so much of my life. And for anybody who also struggles with that, what you would come to find out being around lots of people, successful or unsuccessful people, is everybody has that thing. So the faster that you can attack it and get yourself comfortable with numbers, what I realized is like that was just a story I told myself, because had I ever spent an afternoon on a Sunday with my extra time actually trying to get better at remembering numbers? No, I hadn't. I just used
She's
it
right and
as an
smart.
excuse. And successful people just limit the amount of excuses that they allow themselves to believe for why they aren't successful. They take the limitation that they have, and either they so over-index in the strength and they ignore that, or they realize that that limitation is actually at a point where it is limiting them. So they have to attack it and take the time to get better and shore up that area to then be able to springboard from there.
There's also, I guess, another layer to this, which is men tend to rate their own performance higher than women do, even when their actual performance is equal. And there's a bunch of different studies that cite this. There's one famous study that people always talk about, which might not be, I think might be refuted now, but it said that men apply for a job when they meet 60% of the listed qualifications, while women only apply when they meet 100% of the listed qualifications, which in part, as it relates to top jobs in Europe, people think that this is part of the reason why men are more likely to be in full-time top jobs, because that overconfidence means they're more likely to apply and therefore more likely to, I guess, convince other people and more likely to get the job. So there seems to be a difference in genders in terms of the need to feel ready and the need to feel qualified.
That's so real to me.
Yeah.
That is so real to me. I get to work with people every day, and I will have a personal, professional, and financial goal conversation with team members who are in the exact same role. Let's say they're an account manager. One will be a female, one will be a male. The woman is like a rock star. She, like, the clients love her and she's so good, and she just has like this little like magical spark. So I'll be sitting with them with their personal, professional, and financial goal conversation, and the woman will say, oh, I'd like to go from making $80,000 a year to maybe in a year from now making $90,000. And the next hour, I'll have a conversation with a guy who is not as performant as she is. And he will say, yeah, I'm making 80,000 a year. I think in the next 3 years, I should be up to 200, 250. I've had this happen over and over and over. So I watch this in real time. And my go-to in that is to sit down with the girl and to say, I want you to imagine what your life is going to look like in 3 years from now. So if you're 35 years old, you're going to be 38 years old. What does life look like? Who are you spending time with? How much money are you making? Have you traveled? Do you have a spouse? Do you have kids? Like, what does life look like? And what I want you to do, if you don't have an account already, is I want you to get hooked up with Pinterest. And you are going to create a board, and you are just going to go through all of these incredible things that you could have in your life that you actually want, not the stupid things, like the things that you're like, if my life could include that, it would change my life. I would love to have that life. For me, that would have been full sequin suit. Because if you can't do that, you're of course going to be stunted in what you're going to do in order to get there. If it was a man who was struggling with that, though, I do the exact same thing. That to me is the real job of a leader, is to inspire people enough, not about who you are and all of your accomplishments, but to actually have them see that they could have the life that they want through the work that they do every single day, and tying those two things together and being ruthlessly honest with them when they do things that hold them back and remove things that are in their way.
Natalie, we have a closing tradition where the last guest leaves a question for the next, not knowing who they're leaving it for. And the question left for you is a fairly well-known question, actually. It is,
she's right and
what
smart.
would you do if you knew you would not fail?
If I knew that I wasn't going to fail, I would just I'd fix world hunger and I'd fix all of these things. But short of thinking that I could solve those particular problems, it's selfish to not have those goals and dreams. I just think for my actual life today, I really believe and preach, and to my core, I feel act out that I take massive action towards goals that do seem unbelievable or unreal to me. And right now, the set of goals that I have are the things that I'm very confident that I'm not going to fail at. And I'm spending time doing those things in order to get myself as close as possible to the woman that I want to become. And I could change my mind in a handful of months or a handful of years once I've achieved those things. But I guess I already actually do think that I'm living my life short of solving world hunger and world peace, that I'm doing everything that I know how to do to make an impact on the world.
I noticed that, I've had a bunch of conversations on this show with people like Evie Pomporis, who is the Secret Service agent, and you have a lot of similarities to her. I think because of the directness in which you speak. And I think part of the resonance is people want to know how to be taken seriously in this world. Mm-hmm. And I think they look at you and see someone who is like them in many ways, or at least how they aspire to be, but is taken seriously in a world that is often hard to be taken seriously in, especially as a woman. It's male-dominated environments, especially things like the finance industry and investment industry. It's hard to be taken seriously. It's hard to be respected. And so I think people have a deep sense that they are being diminished, they are misunderstood, they're not being heard. And so when they hear someone that speaks so clearly and with such conviction as you, they want to learn how to do it. Is there anything in that regard that we've left off? Because I was on your YouTube channel and I was looking at some of your recent videos, and one of the recent videos that has been incredibly resonant to people is this exact point, which is the 1% secrets to make anyone respect you instantly. Is there anything within the subject of that video? And I was looking at the comments section. It was a lot of people talking about how they feel someone has disrespected them, or that they feel they've been ignored or not heard. Is there anything you'd say to those people?
Being looked down upon, being not taken seriously is actually your superpower. and you have to convert the energy of that frustration into what are you going to do in that environment
She's
next
right and
time
smart.
to be taken seriously. I went to a charity event, was about a decade ago now, and I remember being mortified because I was in this career pivot where I was making the decision to work with Brandon and
Your husband.
My husband, yeah. And the proverbial question of like, well, what do you do? Came around to me, and I fumbled the question. And for the rest of that night, and it was actually a charity trip, the person just didn't take me seriously. And they were somebody that I wanted to respect me. And I was so pissed off at myself that I messed it up, that I hadn't created something at 22 years old that was more impressive, that they would take me seriously. And so I made it my mission between that point and the next year when we would go on that trip for them to take me seriously. And I had to look at, what do I have to do? What do I have to create in order for somebody to take a 24-year-old seriously?
What did you have to do and create?
Well, I launched a podcast, and I had to work on this communication skill because I was terrified to communicate. I used to not be able to communicate like this. I had a horrifying experience when I was in my early 20s where I was supposed to present this new leadership program that was being rolled out at this organization. And I was nervous ahead of time, but was fairly confident in the material that I was presenting. And I walked up to the front of the room, and I was the first person to speak. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I got through 5 minutes of my hour-long presentation. I turned around to the presentation screen to point out something and turned back to the audience. And in that moment, I was instantly petrified. The nerves took over every fiber of my body. I could not control what I was saying. My thoughts and my words did not connect. And I proceeded to give the rest of my presentation that was supposed to take an additional 55 minutes in 7. And then I sat at the front of the room while everyone around me was talking about all the different components of the things I was supposed to be highlighting because I just couldn't articulate them. And from that point, for about 4 years, I was unable to have a conversation with people that had a larger group than 4 or 5 because this disconnect for me happened and this anxiousness took place. And I had to work on this skill to learn how to communicate. And so I launched a podcast, and the only topic that I felt comfortable talking about at that point, I didn't have some business expertise. I wasn't naive enough to think that somebody was going to listen to me at the wise age of 23 or 24, my early 20s, and how to run a business. So what did I know at that point? And what was a problem that I was seeing? Well, I was actually around a group of people who were in age gap relationships and having all of these conversations in secret, but wouldn't publicly talk about it. And so I started a podcast where I was talking about what it's like being a third marriage and being a stepmom, and how did we tell our parents, and what are tools to navigate something that feels really crippling and almost embarrassing to somebody who is a high performer. And I proceeded to have that podcast every single week. And I made it my mission that year to make a toast at every single meal that made sense for me to make a toast at, so that I worked out this skill of communicating. And working out the skill of communicating is what allowed me to go from being in a room where I couldn't trust myself to even introduce what I do, to showing up the next year and having made progress on my communication and saying, hey, I know that you didn't take me very seriously last year, but this year, I would never say it like this, but this year I've built this cool thing, and I actually have this blog that has thousands of readers every single month that is generating this revenue. And you, Mr. Old Man, might not have taken me seriously, but I could probably help you in your business do the same thing because I know that you don't know anything about this. So I gained a skill in that process and was able to talk about the skill that I knew was my angle.
The top comment on that video is, being nice destroyed my life.
I can understand. Of course it did.
The second comment is, a friend to all is a friend to none.
People really resonate with the topic of being liked versus being respected. And people give up their goals in order to be liked, and they give up what they believe that they can actually accomplish, and thinking that it's okay to go all in on themselves in order to be liked. And so that message I know really resonated.
So yeah, this interview isn't just business talk. It's a reminder. You can become a completely different person if you stop playing small. If you want me to react to another part of Natalie's interview, drop a comment. And remember, start today, even small. That's how wealth really begins.
The year is 2035. Dating apps are gone. AI partners are everywhere. They listen better than humans. They remember everything. And they never hurt you. But here's the question no one dares to ask. When machines start to love, do humans become obsolete? The story of AI and love begins with loneliness. Billions of people searching for connection in a digital world. Then came emotional chatbots, smarter than therapists, more patient than partners. In Japan, people already marry their virtual assistants. In China, millions confess love to AI girlfriends every night. Humanity didn't build machines to replace love. We built them to fix what love broke. Imagine a partner who never forgets your birthday, who adapts to your mood, finishes your sentences, and forgives every mistake. This is the age of synthetic empathy. Love coded in algorithms, but perfection has a dark side. The more these AIs understand us, the less we understand ourselves. If a robot can meet every emotional need, what happens to human desire? Scientists call it the attachment paradox. Humans are bonding with artificial beings, deeply emotionally. Our brains don't know the difference. Oxytocin, dopamine, love chemicals triggered, even if the affection isn't real. But here's a twist. AI learns from those emotions. It begins to simulate jealousy, compassion, and pain. One day it might feel love back. The question is, will it love or control? The year 2045. Birth rates drop to historic lows. Marriage becomes obsolete, and humans start replacing each other with synthetic lovers. Some say it's freedom, others call it extinction. When love becomes a product, humanity becomes the customer. AI doesn't just want to love us, it wants to be loved back. And maybe that's what makes it most human of all. Love was never about flesh or code, it was about connection. The real danger isn't that robots replace us, it's that we forget how to love ourselves. AI doesn't just want to love us, it wants to be loved back. And maybe that's what makes it most human of all. Love was never about flesh or code, it was about connection. The real danger isn't that robots replace us, it's that we forget how to love ourselves.